This Week in Gaming with Naomi Kyle.
Hey, I'm Naomi Kyle, and welcome back to This Week in Gaming. This week we're checking in on the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection and the Knights of the Old Republic remake, Minecraft trades diamonds for cold hard cash, and yet another video game franchise prepares to make its Hollywood debut. Plus, we have news on the rumored PS5 Pro. We've got all of this week's gaming news, so let's get started. Starting off with some Star Wars news, the classic Star Wars titles Battlefronts 1 and 2 are games many consider to be the greatest Star Wars multiplayer experiences of all time. It seems like an automatic slam dunk for the devs at Aspyr, who combined both games into one package and ported the titles over to modern consoles. However, for early adopters of the game who were hoping to relive the carefree days of their youth via sweet nostalgia, quickly grew frustrated upon realizing that this game, like so many others, was unfortunately broken at launch. Gamers found themselves waiting several hours in lobbies for even a single opportunity to play online with fellow Star Wars nerds. And for those lucky enough to get into a match, they would find their experience plagued by bugs, high latency, and rubber banding. High latency is, of course, when in-game actions take longer to register, and rubber banding is when characters or objects in-game suddenly snap back due to network issues. Given these issues and the fact that the game's developers promised cross-platform play where there is none, it is no surprise that some gamers review-bombed the title on Metacritic and Steam, resulting in a user score of 3.6 at the time of this recording. Yikes. Fans eagerly awaiting the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, aka KOTOR remake, might need to wait quite a bit longer, as it seems the game is still far away from coming out. In the official announcement of Embracer Group's sale of Saber Interactive, the developer behind the highly anticipated remake, which sold for an impressive $247 million, Embracer revealed that it would continue publishing several of Saber's games. This includes, and I quote, a previously unannounced AAA game based on a major license, as heard from Embracer boss Lars Wingfors. Many believe this to be in reference to the KOTOR remake, which is good news for fans, myself included. As for when the game might come out, during a conference call regarding the deal, the Embracer boss hinted at a longer wait for the jointly held AAA project, stating, "No, I think that kind of game needs some deep love and respect, so without giving full color, I think it's some time left until that is released. May the Force be strong with Saber, and may KOTOR be safe from any more turmoil." Details of the rumored next iteration of the PS5 have surfaced online. Dubbed the PS5 Pro, we now have spec details and an alleged release window, if the leak from YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead is to be believed. Now, I'm going to break down just the key highlights from the leak to avoid getting too much into the nitty-gritty, so here it goes. It's rumored the PS5 Pro will release sometime at the end of this year and will seemingly sport a lot more power. Apparently, it will feature a GPU similar to the AMD Radeon RX 7800 XT, which could enhance performance for ray-traced games. It's also rumored to have faster system memory, improved audio hardware, and a CPU that's the same as the basic PS5 model, but featuring a boosted clock speed. Additionally, the PS5 Pro is set to sport a detachable disk drive and offer 1 terabyte of storage space. Good old technical jargon. You gotta love it. It's important to note that these specs are said to have originated from Sony Interactive Entertainment's developer network, and while Sony has not officially confirmed anything yet, both Insider Gaming and IGN have corroborated the rumors, so take with that information what you will. And don't worry, we'll be breaking down this story a lot more with our guest today, so stay tuned for that a little later in the show. Video games like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Call of Duty are adored by fans all over. We're often quick to praise the developers over at Activision for the snappy gameplay and high level of polish, since they're the ones writing the code. But what about the people who flagged the glitches and game-breaking bugs in the first place? Don't they deserve some credit too? Those responsible for logging the bugs in these games are the Activision Quality Assurance Testers, and with 390 votes, they have joined the Communication Workers of America and successfully formed the largest union of video game workers to date. This marks yet another triumph for industry workers, as we've often reported on this show, and it shines a well-deserved light on QA testers whose work too often goes unrecognized. The next video game to be adapted into a TV series is Among Us. Yes, there is unfortunately no release date for the animated series yet, but fans of the game will be happy to learn that CBS Studios has settled on a cast to play the crew members, and the resulting list is nothing short of amazing. Randall Park of Fresh Off the Boat and The Interview is set to play Red, captain of the Skeld. Community star Yvette Nicole Brown will be playing Purple, the sarcastic chief of security. Orange will be voiced by the incredibly talented Ashley Johnson, who is best known for her work as Ellie from The Last of Us games. And finally, none other than Elijah Wood of The Lord of the Rings is lending his voice to Green, an unpaid intern on the Skeld, who is just happy to be here. Is someone else getting the feeling that Green's backstory sounds a little sus? Something new has been added to Minecraft, and no, it's not another mod. It's a new subscription service called the Marketplace Pass. That's right, on Friday, Microsoft announced a new service on the Minecraft website, and the details are as follows. For $3.99 per month, players gain access to over 150 community-created content packs and items that will be curated and changed up monthly from the Minecraft Marketplace, which is the official store for player-made content where things like skins, adventure worlds, and texture packs can be bought and sold. It's important to note that once content leaves the monthly catalog, players must buy it from the marketplace to keep using it while playing. However, character creator items won't go anywhere. And if you're already subscribed to Realms Plus, you'll be happy to know that it now includes the Marketplace Pass for free. In related news, Microsoft has issued a cautionary tale for PC players. Steer clear of updating your game through the Xbox app unless you're prepared to bid farewell to your beloved Minecraft worlds. Reports flooded in this week as players reported losing their precious worlds due to installing the new update. Ouch. Microsoft was quick to respond in a tweet saying, "Do not update Minecraft through the Xbox app on PC. If you do, your worlds may be lost. We recommend that you run the gaming services repair tool for PC before installing the Minecraft update. Wishing you the best of luck out there, Minecrafters." In an announcement last week, we found out that Summer Game Fest 2024 is officially returning on June 7th for its 4th consecutive year. Yep, the annual gaming event, who some have deemed the new E3, will be featuring video game exclusive announcements, trailers, special guests, and more, and will be hosted by none other than the event's founder, Jeff Keighley. The event promises 2 hours of nonstop action and will be broadcast live from the YouTube Theater in Los Angeles. For those looking to attend in person to be part of the action, tickets open on May 7th through Ticketmaster, but for those who just want the highlights, This Week in Gaming will of course be sharing all the big announcements as the event unfolds, so stay tuned for more when it happens. Amidst Helldivers reportedly selling over 8 million copies and showing no signs of stopping, rumors have now stirred of flying Terminids appearing in the game, much to the disbelief of its director, Johan Palstead. Despite sightings and recorded encounters as shared by users on Reddit, Palstead vehemently denies their existence, dismissing them as propaganda from bug sympathizers. But who do we believe? We do know that flying bugs are depicted in the game's official cover art, and Redditors have already shown the receipts. To me, this all smells like another surprise is in store for us Helldivers, reminiscent of when players spotted mechs before their official release. Now it seems flying bugs are next, which, if I'm to be honest, is a bit unsettling. We'll have to update you on more with this story if and when the flying bugs do become a reality. Palworld, or as many have lovingly dubbed the game, Pokemon with Guns, has done exceptionally well since its launch back in January. As it stands, Palworld has currently sold 50 million copies on Steam and has 10 million downloads on Xbox Game Pass. And at $30 a download, that means massive profits for Pocket Pair and its CEO, Takuro Miyazabi. Only he doesn't seem too pleased with the news, as he shared in an interview with Bloomberg. Given that Palworld has made hundreds of millions of dollars, it could be too much for a studio of our size to handle, he said. He also mentioned later that the company has no plans to expand their small team of 55 people and no plans to go public. So what does Pocket Pair plan on doing with all of their extra profit? Well, shortly after their interview with Bloomberg, Pocket Pair posted a video on Twitter revealing plans for an update they've titled Raid Battle Number 1. In the video, it shows a trainer and their pals placing a crystal to summon a new sinister-looking pal they've named Belenoir. Although there is no release date yet, we can assume, given the title of the video, that there will be many more raid battles to come. Most games launch at full price, then after about a month when sales start to drop off, retailers begin to mark down games for sale. That's just how we do things in the modern world. But over in the Land of Shadow, they do things a bit different. As it turns out, online retailer Fanatical has marked down pre-orders for all editions of the Elden Ring DLC Shadow of the Erd Tree for PC by 12%. making what was once a $40 DLC now only $34 and some change. As previously mentioned, there are other additions and some that even come with digital goodies like soundtracks and digital art books. So if you're on PC and you're planning on picking up the DLC day one, might as well save some runes while you're at it. So that's it for the news this week. It's now time to chat with our returning guest, Khalif Adams, who joins us to chat more about the PS5 Pro leak. Hey Khalif, welcome to the show as always. Good to have you back.
Hi, how are you? So happy to be back.
I'm good. Just coming off of this news, the PS5 Pro, we got some leaks, some good old leaks. So my first initial question is, what do you think of the release window, the timing of this? It's supposed to reportedly come out as soon as November of this year.
It is wild, to be honest, to think that we're going to get a potentially new PlayStation version of the console before the year's end is pretty wild to think about. I think it's going to be a really interesting space for Sony to kind of land in for what this year has been. We talked a little bit about in some previous episodes around conversations about what software offerings are going to be coming out for the system, them not necessarily leaning on first party and kind of leaning more towards third party is going to be a big part of the strategy for Sony and PlayStation there. And now with this new piece of hardware that's supposed to come in and give you that extra bump of goodness in your graphics and in your speed and all of those things, it's going to be really cool to see, one, if they can pull this off, and then two, what does that actually mean for players in the biggest ways? Because that's where it all kind of lands. Is like, if you as a player at home, how does this make your gaming experience better? So there'll be a lot of really interesting layers for them to dig through on the Sony side.
For anyone who's not super tech jargony in on, all the stuff that came out, because there's a lot of specs, a lot of numbers. So for those out there who, are maybe less in the know about that stuff, what would you say is like kind of the big standout? Were you able to like brush through some of the specs and get a sense of like what we're looking at for this new console? All
the sexy teraflops, you mean? All of those things? The biggest kind of, bullet points that I would say people really need to pay attention to if you're thinking about even, entertaining the ability to potentially go grab one of these things when it drops is one of the biggest complaints that we've seen in this generation has been around performance, and it's been around graphical fidelity. And I think what we're going to potentially see with this new piece of hardware is a bump in both of those things. One of the biggest promises of the PlayStation, and to be honest, of this gaming generation, has been 4K graphics at 60 frames per second, and all of these things that are going to kind of be integral to the actual way you play things. So like faster load times, being able to be able to have your graphics be the highest quality and steady frames per second. We've seen that not necessarily be the case in terms of this generation so far. We're still kind of in the middle of it. We haven't gotten to the end of it, is where you see a lot of those gains wind up happening when a lot of developers finally get their understanding of what the hardware can do. And I think this is a kind of kick in the butt to be able to move all of that stuff forward a little bit faster. So I think, we saw some specs around what the kind of base CPU is going to do, which is pretty similar to what you've already seen in the current PlayStation 5. But there'll be basically a version of it that it will let you kind of bump that up by 10% to get a little bit of extra juice out of it. And then you'll have your graphics, which will come in the form of a different and kind of more beefier GPU, where all your graphics are kind of being processed. So those two things in tandem, which are the things that most gamers kind of understand and kind of really need to know, we'll see how that all kind of really plays itself out. I think that's where we're going to wind up kind of like landing at the end of the day. But the one thing that we don't know yet, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this part, is at what cost does that come? Right?
Yes. I was literally about to ask about what your price predictions or expectations are, at least for the next iteration.
$7 million. No,
ooh,
I mean, I don't want to have to work 4 jobs to get this bad boy. But I think looking at the current state of where PlayStation is, I talked a little bit about this on social, but there's a couple of avenues there that I think are really concerning, or at least, raising some eyebrows, which is one, we've already gone through at least one hardware iteration. We've seen the PS5 Slim come into the market. What does that mean for those other two versions of the console, the OG PlayStation and then the PlayStation Slim, and now you're going to have a Pro? Do we actually get a form factor change in there too? Does it change a little bit in the way that it actually looks to really get more of that juice into the system? And again, the price of like, what does this lean on in the space? We've seen Sony already not have a price drop. They've actually had a price increase on their platform. Does this mean that now we'll see a price bump down for this? We see a little bit of a discount for the older versions, and the newer version then become the standard at what I think would be a $499 price, at least US. Canada, I'm not sure how much that bumps up to, but I think in that conversation, do we see the new balance of those prices kind of change? And does that feel like enough of a difference in speed and power to justify you going out and kind of re-upping in the middle of a generation as opposed to the end? Because this isn't a PlayStation 6. This is a PlayStation 5 Plus, you know?
That's right.
So I think that changes a lot of those discussions in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about GTA 6 because we've heard, of course, that, you know, all of the major PlayStation franchise titles are delayed till 2025. We know GTA 6 is on the horizon. Do you think this plays a part in that? Is there some strategy there from Sony's part?
It could be. I mean, the thing that no one knows is GTA 6 going to be a exclusive, which I doubt. I really doubt Rockstar is going to lose money on the potential of putting out the biggest game and most anticipated game that we've seen probably in a decade since Red Dead Redemption 2. But I think it could really lean into the kind of next driving force that we see technologically. There are so many systems that live within a GTA game that we've seen before. You know, multiple characters that we saw in 5 that you could hot swap between, you know, these big expansive worlds that are going to be kind of living in and having all of these characters do stuff all the time. And now we saw, at least with the protagonist, we at least know that there's the female lead and it looks like to be her boyfriend or, you know, person that she's with kind of being in tandem and kind of doing stuff. There's a lot of things you can do with two characters at the same time or even swapping between them. So we talked about this being the biggest GTA ever. I think they're not going to lie when they say that, because I do believe Rockstar in that way. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean, right? What does that mean from a computational hardware perspective? I think this might be the thing that melts everyone else's PlayStations and PlayStation Slims, and you might need a PlayStation 5 Pro to really run this thing the way you want. So it's going to be telling to see what this means for the future of that game and whether Rockstar knew a thing before we did, right?
Yeah.
Of saying like, yeah, we knew this is coming and we wanted to make our game as beefy as possible so it can run really well for everybody who's going to play it. So it might be a canary in the coal mine for a lot of things coming up for the hardware side of everything. And really quickly, Xbox did talk about some new hardware coming, or at least being discussed towards the end of the year too. So there may be some juiciness in there in the rumor mill to figure out.
Yeah, they're jumping to get the hardware out before this big launch. My other question is, you know, leaks. The story of leaks. It's a common tale in our industry. How do you feel about these types of leaks that happen overall? What's your general take on those?
This is where I get to put on my old man hat, and I'm like, in my day, when I was starting out in the industry, leaking wasn't a thing that was really celebrated. But now we have verified leakers in the space to be able to kind of divulge information before it's time. I don't know. I think I'm a person who loves for the surprise to be the surprise. I don't want to know the spoilers before they come out. Also, as a person who's doing this work both inside the industry and kind of on the periphery in the media and kind of enthusiast press space, it just takes a lot of the air out of the room when you do that. You know, it's really fun to be able to say like, oh, wow. Oh, this is a thing that Sony is going to like really put some energy around and marketing around and blow us out of the water with some visuals that we didn't really get a chance to see before. And now getting things leaked so early and so far out, both on the Xbox and now on the Sony side, it just takes a lot of the extra fun out of being a consumer in this space. As a tech enthusiast and a person who loves technology, you want that stuff to kind of just live on its own and be able to have some fun with it. So it's a little disappointing, but also, you know, it's also a good indicator of where the media and where the industry is going, right? Where a lot of that information that used to be very close to the vest is now being disseminated in all these different ways that we hadn't seen before, and in places that were not verified, right? So, it'll be cool to see what comes out of it and what was the actual information that we got leaked and how close that was to the actual stuff that's going to be out in the world. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what with Sony, if they come out with any confirmation of anything that was leaked. But yeah, it's I'm in the same boat that I don't like the leaks, but I will say it definitely gives us something to talk about. Yep. And it's good for getting us hyped for the future. So, we're looking at, new console, GTA 6 around the corner, all of PlayStation franchise titles coming in 2025. It's getting us excited for the future and what's coming. So, Khalif, thank you so much for being on the show as always. Your insight's so awesome. I really appreciate you coming on every now and then. So keep playing like your shirt says. As always, thank you so much for having me, and thanks everybody for listening. Khalif is the founder and host of the Spawn on Me podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Khalif Adams. Now, before I leave you, let's go over the video games releasing this week. The former Microsoft exclusive Hi-Fi Rush made its debut on the PS5 today, March 18th. The 32-year-old survival horror title Alone in the Dark dusts off the cobwebs and releases on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S on March 20th. Another former exclusive switches sides as Horizon Forbidden West ventures over to PC on March 21st. Final Fantasy XIV releases on Xbox Series X and S on March 21st as well. Princess Peach Showtime for the Nintendo Switch releases on March 22nd. The long-awaited Dragon's Dogma 2 lands on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S on March 22nd too. And then Rise of the Ronin also launches that day as a PS5 exclusive. And finally, the Nintendo 3DS RPG Legend of Legacy HD Remastered makes the leap to PC, Switch, PS4, and PS5. You guessed it, on March 22nd. And that's This Week in Gaming. I'm your host, Naomi Kyle, and I had the best time this week bringing you all the latest in games. Thank you so much for listening. Your listen makes a huge difference. Don't forget to let me know what you're playing and what you think about these stories by tagging me at Naomi Kyle. From all of us here at This Week in Gaming, we wish you a fun-filled week, and we'll see you again same time, same place. Thanks for listening.
This Week in Gaming is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more podcasts just like these.